Hello my friends, welcome to part 2 in a series of videos on fractal vibrations. To understand fractal vibrations, we're looking at the 19 vibration chart of Albert Einstein. He has 4 planets connected in 19 vibration: Mercury, Sun and Mars, and Neptune. Those 4 planets are all within orb. You'll see that there are lines connecting all of them. Some of them are red lines, opposition. Some are green lines, trines and sextiles. When we mix red and green lines, the pattern is not extremely simple, clear, and powerful. So there are 4 planets, but it's not all in the same color. So it's there. It's not the most important, powerful thing in the world. We find out when we go to the 19 times 3 vibration, because we see a lot of trines here, we can build off those trines and see what happens. We go to the 19 times 3 vibration, which is 57, and wow, something striking happens, which is that Saturn and Pluto are an extremely strong trine and sextile to Mercury and Neptune. So we still have Mercury and Neptune from the original configuration, and now Saturn and Pluto. Why is this striking? Because the lines are so thick. So we have a very similar planetary configuration. It involves 2 of the same planets, but it's even stronger. So we're seeing, wow, the 19 vibe isn't so strong, but the 19 times 3 is looking interesting, and we want to triple it because we want to remove red and green lines to see if there's a clear, powerful pattern. We multiply 57 times 3. We get 171, bam, we found it. A clear, striking, powerful pattern of Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto. What this means is that 19 vibration pattern, let's go back to it. It's weak. It's not weak, but it's not overpoweringly strong. Some of this planetary configuration, and also the Saturn trine Pluto, which appears to be separate, they combine together at these higher levels, at these fractal levels, multiplying by 3, and we end up with something very striking in the 19 times 3 times 3, or in other words, 19 times 9 vibration. And Mercury, Saturn are the planets of analysis. According to vibrational astrology, if you're a scientist, or it doesn't have to be like as difficult or requires many degrees or whatever as science, if you're working with spreadsheets, if you're an accountant, you're seeing what's really going on. What are the facts and figures? What's relevant, what's not relevant? You must have Mercury, Saturn. Every scientist must have Mercury, Saturn conspicuous. The problem is our understanding of astrology is still primitive. In the 21st century, we are creating a revolution. We're discovering the rules that actually work. We find out when you look at the actual vibrational patterns, Mercury and Saturn are fundamental to Einstein's chart. Now, in his birth chart, Mercury and Saturn are conjunct with a 1-degree orb, but not everybody with Mercury conjunct Saturn with a 1-degree orb is a scientist. What happens is that this conjunction gets activated again in an extremely strong planetary configuration of the 171. It's these higher vibrations, these intricate planetary configurations that are the heartbeat of the chart. They are the power of the chart, and that's why astrology, until modern times with all these tools and resources, has not actually worked that well. It can't be validated by research, but using these modern methods we do. And there's the Mercury Saturn right in the middle. Mercury Saturn right in the middle. Mercury Saturn Pluto midpoint, very strong. And what is 19 vibration? Pattern recognition. What we're seeing here is exceptional specialization and analysis to find patterns. And what planets also involved? Neptune. So a visionary kind of ideal visionary kind of technical analysis. So this is really describing Albert Einstein. When we multiply by 2, now we have something very simple. All 4 planets are in 342 vibration, all within 4 degrees. How often does that happen? In how many vibrational charts will somebody have 4 planets within 4 degrees? Well, we can go in this serious software, we can go into listings and go to harmonics patterns listings number 1, and it will show us all 4 planet combinations for Einstein in the first 360 vibrations. And the ones that are really tight are in capital letters. So we have in the, wait, hold on a second. I need to go back to his birth chart. Sorry, I'm in his vibrational chart. I'll go back to his birth chart. And I've already selected it here, so I'll just click on this. So in his birth chart, this is all the 4 planet conjunctions. And the ones that are really strong, I think it's under 8-degree orb, the others go out to 16 degrees, are in capital letters, so you can find them quickly. There's a 107 vibration with these 4 planets within 7 degrees, and there's the 342, Neptune, Saturn, Mercury, Pluto. That's the order in which they appear in the 342 vibration within 4 degrees, which is what we noticed. And it is the strongest 4-planet aspect configuration of all of the first 360 is this one. This is the tightest connection of planets in aspect by far. The next one is at 7 degrees, almost twice as far away. And then the others are all over 8 degrees. If you go down here, well, here's one at 9. A lot of them are like 14 degrees. It's conspicuously strong. And it's part of a fractal pattern building up from 19 times 3, and then 19 times 3 times 3, and then 19 times 3 times 3 times 2, and all comes together. According to vibrational astrology theory, this is one of the most significant, powerful things about Albert Einstein, way more than anything else. So, finding it as part of a fractal pattern makes it even stronger, because it means there are components of this 342 that are down in lower vibrations and maintaining a large planetary configuration. Wow. So at the 57 vibe, 19 times 3, the 171, 19 times 9, and the 342, when we double that, all clear, powerful patterns with exactly the planets we expect. So if we go to this chart wheel, there they are, these 4 planets. Mercury and Saturn right in the middle, closest to Pluto. Neptune and Saturn, they're within less than 1 degree. Wow. Now let's read our notes about this. Okay. This I've already explained. This I've explained. This I've explained. Okay. Let me mention this. There are 2 ways that planetary configurations can spread across vibrations. One is fractal vibrations. The other is if you just have a planetary configuration with a very small orb, like you have a T-square in some vibration, say 7 vibration, and that T-square has almost no orb at all. Well, as you double the orbs, it will stay there. So any planetary configuration with very small orbs, or a planetary configuration can have some larger orbs, but it picks up new planets when you multiply by the same number. That's the fractal. So there are 2 ways that you get planetary configurations spreading across vibrations. Just extremely small orbs between all the planets, or what happens with fractal vibrations, not all the aspects have tiny orbs, but new planets get pulled into the planetary configuration. So, with Einstein, I draw this conclusion at the end. Okay, I'm going to cover Jordan Peterson first, but let me say this about Einstein. I'm going to repeat this at the end of the entire series of videos. E equals mc squared. One of the most profound, mystifying, universal formulas of all time. To see that pattern, to see those relationships. We think of 19 vibration. Let's call up the chart and look at that. These 4 planets being built up from the lower vibrations. The Mercury, Saturn right in the middle. The Mercury, Saturn, Pluto with Neptune. Is it possible that Einstein's abstract genius is partly from this planetary configuration? If that's true, this is unbelievable. This is one of the most radical discoveries in modern times. And that's what we're saying. And we will be developing the software to run this through databases to detect these things. Right now, I've been detecting them just by seeing a particular aspect in a vibrational chart and following it up. We really need the software. We will be writing that software to find these things in individual charts and in research. But, okay. I'm going to show you one more famous person and the fractal vibration. And this one I think is even more compelling, more convincing than Albert Einstein. You can really feel this in this person. At least I think you can. We're just illustrating the ideas with charts. Eventually we need to have software run through a database and do a more formal study. But before we can do that, we have to have the idea clearly developed in mind and have a lot of experience with it, which we now do. Okay, so all of this is necessary to build this evidence-based system of astrology. We need innovation, observations, building on theory, and evaluating and testing them. So these are the new insights that will now go into the next phase of testing. Jordan Peterson. This is fascinating. Okay, let's look at the fractal vibration in Jordan Peterson's chart. This will give you another example and help feel more comfortable with how this works. Okay, I know there's a lot of new material. Let's start with another chart, and I think you're going to be able to follow this pretty well at this point. Okay, let's look at Jordan Peterson. You probably know who he is. He's a psychologist, professor, and a practitioner of psychology, and very popular and very controversial. Okay, and we do have a very good birth time for him, 2:49 a.m. from a birth record. There's his birth chart. Again, what we're going to see is these fractal vibrations going up to very, very high vibrations, describing the essential character, what Jordan Peterson does, just like Einstein, E equals mc squared, and all of the rest of his work in physics. Let's look at his 49 vibration. Doesn't look like much. We see Moon and Pluto very tightly conjunct, tightly semi-square Saturn. I know it's tight because the lines are thick, but it's only 3 planets. When you have tight aspects, you can go up to overtones based on that aspect. Here's a hard aspect, so we can go up by hard numbers, multiply by 2s, 2 times, we can multiply by 4. that'll reduce this semi-square to a lower aspect, see if it picks up more planets. Now, why 49? And why am I even looking at it when I don't see anything that exciting? Let's read from my notes how we got interested in 49. Philip Maxwell, who's graduating from my program right now, he's exceptionally good at finding these patterns. He brought Peterson's 49 vibration to my attention. Okay, let's talk about Peterson and why we think 49 would be important, and then let's see what it does. So Peterson, as I said, he's a popular, controversial professor and practicing psychologist. He's clearly highly intelligent, even if you don't like him at all. There's no doubt this guy's highly intelligent. He has a sensitive and deep understanding of human personality and the ways in which various things like evolutionary processes and history affect human personality and behavior. So he's not just like a one-dimensional psychologist emphasizing one or two personality things. He studies all the personality theorists, Freud and Jung and Adler and blah, 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 all these people. He's studied history. He analyzes academic research papers. He understands the research methods and the statistics and those things. Very deep, very comprehensive. He works with a lot of symbolism, religious symbolism, mythological symbolism, things like this. So he's approaching the psychology from many different angles. But especially this depth of understanding of human motivation. What motivates people? He often uses his deep understanding and appreciation of myth and religion to understand and explain human behavior. Now, here's where the controversy starts. All well and good. We like good professors who are serious and really academically sophisticated. That's great. And he's very interesting in his lectures. So far, so good. Here's where the problems arise. He's adamantly against the woke agenda. And that word woke has gotten to be a pejorative term, but, there's highly liberal emphasis. He's a big believer in the freedom to choose. And what happened is, as a professor in Canada, there was a new regulation that required him to use pronouns. So if someone says, call them they, you have to do it. And what he said is requiring him to follow these rules is a step towards evil. It's a step towards what happens with countries that are totalitarian. They start telling people, you must do this, you must do that. And that's one of the fundamental things he's arguing against. So this is a precursor to a culture becoming malevolent. He also has some problems with some of the ideas to support some of these liberal ideas. So anyway, this has gotten him into a very controversial and strong opinionated position. Now, regardless of what you think about his conclusions in those regards, he does have a deep understanding of myth and symbolism, and he puts a lot of emphasis on people becoming responsible and mature human beings. This is another reason why the woke thing bugs him. It looks superficial. It looks, like just people just, irritated by something and saying all these things without researching it well, without understanding the history, the consequences, looking at it in more depth. He seems to have some kind of very strong 7 quality. 7 often inclines to be dignified, even to have a kind of gravitas, which he has. He dresses nicely, a little bit formal, but at the same time being expressive. But he's like a formal, some gravitas, the depth of his discussions. There's a lot of 7 quality to him. So I'm expecting he's got some overtones of 7, possibly with Moon, Mercury, or Saturn, at least 2 other planets. some kind of 7-based vibrational thing. Maybe 7 times 3, 7 times 9, something going on with 7 with Jordan Peterson. When we look at the 7 vibration charts, I'm not seeing anything outstanding in terms of the aspects. So I brought up his 7 vibration. There's a T-square, Mars, Saturn, Neptune. That actually makes a lot of sense. But Mars is over 2-degree orb. And Moon is involved. Well, this is what I'm expecting, actually. Moon, Mars, Saturn, Neptune. So there it is, right in the 7 vibe. But why is he so extreme about it? He's got it in the low vibe. There must be something going on in higher 7 vibes. Because your talent, your inner motivation, the things that really drive you, according to our theory, they have to appear in higher vibrations as well. So when we go to 21, we just see different aspects, no clear pattern. We look at 7 times 4, 28. We see a lot of red lines, no clear pattern. If we go to 63, that's 9 times 7. We do see Mercury and Jupiter tightly semi-square Uranus. We could multiply that and go much higher, see what happens. But among those basic vibrations, nothing conspicuous. Same thing with 49. But there is promise that if I go high enough with this Mercury, Jupiter, semi-square Uranus, I will get a large configuration. We're expecting at least 4, maybe 5 planets, because he's so clear and strong in his pursuit of human motivation, mythology, religious experience, etc. He spends his whole life on this. Requires a very strong planetary configuration. This is why we're looking at 7 with Jordan Peterson. Okay, back to our PowerPoint. Now I can also look at supersymmetry patterns. Those are midpoint patterns. I didn't do that. Philip had noticed something with 49, and so far I'm not satisfied with what vibrational astrology is telling me about Jordan Peterson. Yeah, he's got the 7 vibe, but he must have more. The vibrational astrology so far is not working completely clearly. So, we look at the 49 vibe, and let's multiply by 3. We can multiply by 4. Either one would work. We could multiply by 4 to see what's going on with this Moon, Saturn, Pluto, see if it's picking up something. We can also take this semi-sextile between Jupiter and Uranus and the trine, multiply by 3. Multiply by 3 takes those green lines, makes them simpler aspects. Multiply by 4 would take the red lines. So I can do either one. Let's multiply by 3. And that gives us 147. And we have Uranus and Neptune. Well, Sun, Uranus, and Neptune. Mercury, Saturn, let's see what happens to them. 49 times 3. Whoa! All of a sudden, I now have very large planetary configurations. So what has happened is I now have Mercury and Saturn trine Venus and Jupiter. How did all this happen? If I go back to 49 and I look at Venus, Jupiter, and Mercury, Saturn, okay, Mercury, Saturn are trine. Venus and Jupiter are conjunct. I didn't even really notice that. They're conjunct. And when I triple this vibration, they get pulled into it. This is how fractal vibrations work. You have a strong aspect. Look at this Mercury trine Saturn. It's a 14-minute orb. A small orb means it's going to stay strong. When I multiply by 3, it'll be 3 times bigger. That's still under 1 degree. So it just happens that when I multiply by 3, that Venus and Jupiter end up trine the Mercury and Saturn. 4-planet combination, and it's all very tight. Spreads 2 degrees. We don't see any extremely thin lines here. Now we have a strong 4-planet pattern in the 49 times 3. And what's going on here? Sun and Uranus are trine Moon and Pluto. A little bit weaker. That's spreading 3 degrees. How did that happen? Moon, Pluto to Sun, Uranus. If I go back to 49, Moon and Pluto are conjunct. Sun and Uranus are conjunct. And when I triple the vibration, we see that they're actually connected. So what's happening is a lot of planets that look separate. Moon and Pluto looks like it's only connected to Saturn. Venus and Jupiter, pretty separate by themselves, near Mars. When we triple it to 147, all these things happen to connect. So the 49 is not very strong, but the 49 times 3 is. We have a 4-planet pattern of Mercury, Saturn, Venus, Jupiter. We have a 4-planet pattern of Sun, Uranus, Moon, Pluto, these other green lines. And we have the red lines of Mercury and Saturn to Moon, Pluto. If we go back to the 49 vibe, that Mercury trine Saturn is also in hard aspect to Moon, Pluto when I triple it. When I go 49 times 3. The point is, you don't have to think about all those numbers. All you need to know is you go to an overtone, you see the same planets, Mercury and Saturn, the Venus and Jupiter and the Moon, Pluto, all 3 of those are important in 49, and they're all coming together. And the Sun, Uranus. 4 different things. The Sun, Uranus coming together with Moon, Pluto, the Mercury, Saturn coming together with Venus, Jupiter, and the Moon, Pluto. They're wiring up, and you see all these thick lines. Wow. Now, we could triple it again. Let's see what I do let's read my notes. See what approach I took. We multiply by 3, and we see all of these patterns in the 147. There are 3 4-planet patterns. Okay, I just showed them to you. And notice the planets involved. This gets really interesting. Look at Mercury, Saturn with Moon, Pluto. Oh my God. I mean, it could be a coincidence. Maybe, maybe it's just a coincidence. But Moon, Pluto, what compulsions do you have from the past? This is what psychologists do. This is what Jordan Peterson does. Mercury, Saturn, he's extremely scientific, trying to figure out what's really connected to what's really causing what, and he's really unforgiving about it. He will not whitewash over, dilute what he's seeing. What does the data say? This is Mercury, Saturn. Mercury, Saturn, Moon, Pluto. In a 49 vibration. Now here's the thing about 49. When you square a number, it takes it to a social level. You take 7, which makes you quiet. And being quiet, it gives you the ability to control, to direct, to think deeply. You multiply 7 times 7, and it's the social context. What do we have in our society, in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in our activities that helps people gain control of their emotions so that they're not so impulsive, that they low impulse control? What enables them to develop concentration, focus, maturity, strength? That's what 49 is about. And in it, 49 times 3 vibration, these very high vibrations, he has a Mercury, Saturn, Moon, Pluto. This is what he does. You can see why he's so reactive against what the woke movement. It's people like Jordan Peterson have hurt that movement by speaking so loudly against it and making arguments against it. Whether you agree or disagree doesn't matter in terms of understanding astrology. I'm not here to tell you who's right or who's wrong. I'm here to show that this vibrational astrology is revolutionary. The actual power in the astrology chart is in these extremely high vibrations. Looking at these red lines, these are called sesquiquadrats, 3/8 of a circle, in the 49 times 3 vibration chart is considered by 99% of astrologers to be near lunacy. It's like, this is just some nerdy number guy going crazy with his number. I mean, keep it simple. This is ridiculous. No, it's not ridiculous. If we thought every new discovery was ridiculous, we'd still be, using horse and buggies or whatever. I mean, nothing would have changed. Is this what we want to do with astrology? Just keep repeating what they did in medieval times because they were so wise and whatever? No. We have new tools. We're discovering how this actually works. And we've got solid research to show it. And you can feel it. It's exciting. It's not just numbers. Mercury, Saturn, Moon, Pluto. This is crazy. Crazy. And it's amazing how it feels right. And, we will develop the software to put this through the databases and confirm what's going on. It all takes a lot of time. But these huge planetary configurations make emphasis. The Sun Uranus is trine Moon Pluto. All of his emphasis on freedom. You can't tell me that I can't say this. The loss of freedom is what creates evil. It creates totalitarian governments. He talks about the history of how, with good intentions, governments said, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Another generation or two later, and it's become maliciously controlling. Sun Uranus, trine Moon Pluto. His depth of study, of going through all this material, how many hours has he spent in libraries or whatever, pouring through all of this stuff. 49 vibe. To see the social context, how the social context, the world we're in, affects our ability to become mature adults and responsible who are not just like kids, just jumping from one thing to another and reacting without some forethought and deep consideration. So I call this finding the person. I feel like we found him, and we're not done yet. We can keep going. We see all these trines. We can triple this, see what happens. Okay, let's follow what I did here. So we're going to multiply by 3 again. I'm going to stop here because I have a lot more to say about Jordan Peterson. I'm already at a half hour. Part 3 in this series is going to be about the power of super high vibrations, crazy high vibrations. The next one we're going to talk about is 441, where we're going to take 49 times 3, multiply by 3 again, 49 times 9. And how this continues to describe Jordan Peterson and what our criterion is for when is a vibration too high. Because you get to 441 and you say, well, this is too high. And how do we organize our thoughts? How are we so sure that this is fundamental? Let's address those issues in part 3, the power of these super high vibrations and how we evaluate if we've gone too high in a vibration. And more about the details of how this describes Jordan Peterson, how that pattern that we analyzed for Albert Einstein in part 1 describes him. Okay, I'll see you hopefully in part 3. Thank you very much for participating in this. God bless. Namaste.